Hey guys, what's going on? So, I'm feeling really good right now. And you know something? I feel great because it just feels good to have your money on your actual bank card and just watch it pile up. You have a little extra to have set aside. You try to build up your money again. It just feels good working for the things you have, not asking for anything from anybody. As a man, it just feels great. Knowing you got to do that for the rest of your life, it just feels good when you are able to build up a foundation and just see it grow and grow. And I recommend, because I had no direction in life at all, you know, 3-4 years ago. But I recommend every man always save your money, always take care of yourself, and always have a little money. Like, it wouldn't hurt to work a little side job just to have some money set aside, because you never know when a rainy day can occur. But if you didn't know this, I'm currently in Florida. I am in the great county of the great Flagler County, and currently right now. And this is 302 miles from Miami, which is, I believe, Miami-Dade County. Sanford, Florida is a suburb in Miami. This is where I want to tell you something that I really didn't know. And, I had to watch a documentary to understand this. So, almost 12 years ago, because the birthday is approaching in 2 days, I believe, Trayvon Martin would have been 29 years old today. He would have been 29 years old. And I don't like to say what would have been his life if he didn't die, because let me just say this: I had a rocky upbringing myself, and it took me distancing myself from other people and certain cultures to grow and just learn from things that I thought were normal. I stopped doing these things. But let me just say this: when you're 17, 18, most of the times the things that you do at that age and people know is not right, usually you do end up doing them as an adult. So, like, for example, and it's not always the case, but if somebody is a thief and they have a history of doing it, if they like to steal, they like to just take people's stuff, nine times out of 10, they continue that behavior in their adulthood, because that takes a special kind of person to do, just to steal from others, or lie to people, or even sell somebody drugs. You have to have a lot of you have to be a real piece of shit to sell somebody drugs. That's just my opinion. I think you really have no regard for other people when you sell them poison. You sell them basically their death. You give them death in bags of little Ziploc bags of death, man. Spontaneous death at that, because we don't know what could happen, what's in that shit. But when I was 17, and I was in high school, I was in 12th grade, I heard of a case I was on the internet, like a lot of kids my age around that time. I had my first phone around that time. I had a Metro phone. And I remember I saw this picture of this young black kid. He looked like he was 12. He had a Hollister shirt on, and there was this looked like he was like a half Hispanic, half white dude in a jumpsuit. And they said he shot this kid, and they were like, it must be a racial, it must be a case of racial profiling. And I don't want to put my mom's business out there, but around this time too, my mom had won the lottery, and she never tells me how much she won, but she one, enough to rent a car. She drove me to school. She got me some shoes. I had like some Adidas, and they hurt my feet a lot. But thank you, Mom, for buying me those shoes. But I got some Adidas, and as she drove me to school, I remember we sort of talked about that case because we saw a little protest. This is before. Let me tell you, in 2012, because Obama was president, there were not really any protests like we have today. Everybody wants to protest, but there were not protests just coming out of the ass of people. Like, protests were the only ones I knew of was Occupy Philly. That's all I knew about. You know, and I think a lot of these Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Philly, Atlanta, wherever the fuck you are in the world, they just move on to different protests as the years progress. But Trayvon Martin, you know, a lot of the kids at our school, they had posters up and they were demanding justice for Trayvon. And some people were even skipping school until they arrested George Zimmerman, because I wasn't really smart back then. I was not really educated very much. I didn't read. I was a real, let's say, I just kind of got by off of barely doing shit, to be honest. I did schoolwork, but I never really applied myself very much. And I did have a little common sense. I just asked myself, what the hell does arresting some guy hundreds and thousands of miles away, which is a great distance, what does that have to do with us in Philadelphia? What's that got to do with us? And, you know, people were leaving school until they arrested this guy. And, you know, a month or two later, he went to jail. And if you don't know the story, I'm going to tell you the real story, what happened. Trayvon Martin. So one day, it was a black teen, Trayvon Martin. He was living at his father's girlfriend's house, or apartment, or condo, whatever you want to call it. Because Trayvon was expelled from his school. Trayvon Martin was expelled because they got tired of him. They didn't want him coming back to school. And his mom threw him out of the house. This was like the third time. She didn't want to deal with him no more. As much as you see her making money off his death, she's making like gospel songs, and, you know, she has like a t-shirt after him and all this shit. She did not want to deal with him anymore. She threw him out of the house the third time. She didn't want to deal with him no more. So Trayvon is on the phone. He's walking. He has a hoodie on, and there were break-ins in that neighborhood. It was a few break-ins by people that were wearing hoodies that were black men. He's on the phone with this girl named Dee Dee. It's not the girl, the heavyset girl who took the stand during the trial. It wasn't Rachel, was it Jontel? She was not a love interest of Trayvon. I mean, you look at Dee Dee, you look at Rachel Jontel, he wouldn't even give her the time of day. Now, they were friends, but he was not trying to date her at all. And he was 2 years younger than her. So Trayvon's on the phone, and, you know, he sees this guy following him because, you know, it's break-ins in the neighborhood, and he tells Dee Dee on the phone, like, hey, I'm getting followed by this guy, and she's telling him to just run. And he never called Zimmerman a creepy, you know, ASS like C word. He never called him that. But they're on the phone. You know, they're all they're trying to figure out, like, who's this guy? Why is he following me? And Trayvon, you know, loses the guy. He hides in the bushes, and Zimmerman is calling 911 because he thinks some guy is trying to break into houses. And they're all like, hey, so are you following the guy? You know, he's like, yeah. He's like, we don't need you to do that. And, you know, the police are going to come. And this is my thing. I don't think they would have did anything. I don't think they would have really did anything effective. I don't think the police would have really done anything. So this is why he took the initiative in trying to see who this guy is himself. So Trayvon is in the bushes hiding. And he finally, approaches Zimmerman, and he's like, "Hey, you got a problem, man?" And he's like, "No." And like, what you do now? And Trayvon attacked the guy. He punched him in the face. He fell down, and he banged his head against the concrete, pavement, cement. Banged his head, and he's screaming like he's asking this dude to get off him, get off him. And he tells him he has a gun. He pulls his gun out, and Trayvon puts his hands up like he's like, "Okay, I'm done, man. I'm okay. Like, chill, don't shoot me." And he shoots him in self-defense, because who's to say Trayvon could have grabbed the gun and killed him? But Trayvon was shot, and paramedics came to try to do CPR, and he died. He died on the grass. And if I didn't know any of these people, if we were not so duped by the media, and it's just a regular case, we took race aside from it, we didn't know the color of these people, Trayvon Martin's killer will be found not guilty by me if I was a juror. And let me tell you something. Trayvon Martin, as much as we love to, his death is going to be 12 years now. I question what could have been his life if he didn't die. What could he have made of himself had he lived? Because George Zimmerman, life was pretty much taken away that night as well, when you think about it. I mean, since he's been out, he's been attacked numerous times, been shot at. The guy who shot at him went to jail, he's doing 20 years for attempted murder. So 2 people lost their lives that day. But the reality is this, man. Every election, it's always going to be one case where we all put our attention on, where we all are distracted from the real concern. That's the election. They will always find a case that will distract us from what's the real issue. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. Zimmerman was in the right of what he did, but he just the person that was picked for that year's case to highlight. He like I said, George Floyd, Derek Chauvin was just that cop whose case was picked to highlight that year. Because George Floyd could have been anybody. If Jacob Blake died in May, he could have been the George Floyd that we all, honor and make statues of, and murals, and you got like graffiti with their name on it. Like, these people could have been anybody, man.